US President Donald Trump has condemned but not apologised for posting a racist video depicting the Obamas as apes on his social media platform. The White House initially defended the video, but after a massive backlash, it was deleted hours later in a rare backtrack.
Former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama were depicted as apes in a video posted on the current President Donald Trump's social media account. The post sparked immediate outrage for its racist and dehumanizing imagery.
It's atrocious, horrible, embarrassing.
I think that is very sad that we have a U.S. president that would make such a joke on another race or another human being. Like, why?
The clip was part of a longer election conspiracy video and remained online for several hours before being removed on Friday. President Trump said he, quote, didn't see the whole video before it was posted and refused to apologize for sharing it.
No, I didn't make a mistake. I mean, I look at a lot of thousands of things, and I looked at the beginning of it. It was fine. And they had that one post, and I guess it was a takeoff. By the way, a lot of people covered. If you look at where it came from, I guess it was a takeoff on The Lion King.
The backlash came from both Republicans and Democrats, while the Obamas have made no public comment. The incident has once again intensified debate in the US over racial sensitivity and responsible political messaging.
Let's bring in Crystal Fleming, a professor of Africana Studies and Sociology at Smith College, Northampton, Massachusetts. Welcome to DW. President Trump mastered social media long ago, but has he made a grave mistake this time, although he says he hasn't made a mistake?
Right. He tells us he hasn't made a mistake and he's not sorry. Listen, I think no one can really be surprised about this kind of gutter racism coming from a man who, has spent most of his adult life obsessed with Black people. He called for the execution of the Central Park Five, Black men who were falsely accused of assaulting a white woman in New York. He's made his career, really profiting from a really pathetic form of anti-Blackness and other forms of xenophobia and racism for many years. So again, we cannot be surprised by it as much as it is outrageous. Now, has he made a mistake? I think it is interesting that it's still politically expedient for some Republicans to pretend as though they are outraged by the president's racism when we all know that the party has been tolerating it, also profiting from it, promoting it for many years now. So I think that, kind of wink, wink, we're so upset that he did this other racist thing should be taken with a healthy grain of salt. But it does show, I think, on the part of both the president and his supporters, a kind of cowardice, right, to not fully acknowledge and, affirm that they are, many of them, white supremacists. The president certainly, has made it clear that he believes in false mythologies of white superiority.
Crystal, is this also something that a president could do to strategically shift focus from matters like the Epstein files?
I think the more that we, call out the fact that the president and his administration is distracting from the Epstein files, the better. Of course, I think throughout also U.S. history, racism and anti-Black racism in particular has been used to distract from a whole lot of things, including policies and practices that would improve society for people across racial and ethnic groups. So yes, I think that there's a way in which he has made a misstep, perhaps, or overplaying his card. And yes, of course, it's a distraction, but it's also a reflection of what I think he genuinely believes. I think, we learn from people like Toni Morrison and thinkers like James Baldwin that this kind of gutter racism, it reflects back how people like Donald Trump see themselves. They have to see other human beings as less than in order to have a sense of self. And so I think it's really a reflection of how pathetic he is, how shameful he is as a person, but also, kind of moral emptiness that, for a rational and healthy person should make them feel ashamed. But I'm not sure that the president is capable of that.
Can you also clarify one thing for me? I mean, Trump made gains with black voters in 2024. Where does this leave things? Because surely the community would just be up in arms about this sort of thing.
It's a good question, and it's quite complex. And I think we should be clear that the gains that Trump made, in particular with male voters of color and Black voters as well. And we need an intersectional lens, bringing together an analysis of race, gender, class, et cetera, to really have a nuanced understanding of those gains. But part of it is that Donald Trump combines racism with misogyny and the hatred of women. Let's remember he's a convicted felon with a long record of abusing women. And so there's a way in which, unfortunately, that also becomes attractive across racial and ethnic lines for others who buy into, unfortunately, that kind of oppressive mindset. And yet at the same time, by no means did Donald Trump win the Black vote. So let's also be clear about the limits of the gains that he made.
Okay, Crystal Fleming, thank you very much from Smith College, Northampton.
Thank you.
Let's bring in Andra Gillespie, a political scientist from Emory University. Trump has called himself the least racist president you've had in a long time. What do you make of that, first of all?
I don't agree. When you keep on making racial statements like this, they cannot be gaffes. So this isn't like this is an isolated incident. This is a president who started off his first presidential campaign in 2015 by maligning Mexicans. And to have something like this happen again and again and again, where he is called Somalis garbage, where he has made disparaging remarks against many other groups, it's hard not to notice the pattern of behavior. And the fact that, and let me start by saying, if I believed that it was true that this was a staffer's mistake and not his own fault, if it were a mistake, then he would have shown some contrition and apologized for it. So it doesn't make sense to me to condemn the post and then say, but, it wasn't a mistake. I think that that's kind of showing his true heart. So, I actually find the backtracking actually to be very, very hollow.
Mm-hmm. What about his team then, the White House, who initially defended the post? Have they really underestimated the impact of such a video?
Well, they are relying on Donald Trump's apparent resilience politically up until this point. He has weathered many, many controversies and has gotten away with things that other similarly situated politicians would not have gotten away with. So I think that they, are resting on the fact that the news cycle will shift and that we will start to follow the next controversy. But there's some cumulative damage that's happening here, and it's probably been accruing the entire time that Donald Trump has been in public office. And I think that there's a larger conversation to be had there. Yesterday, after I saw sort of, the still picture of the Obamas, I immediately recognized that as a racist trope. But I did go back to the original AI-generated video clip that does depict Donald Trump as Lion, King of the Jungle, kind of with a bunch of Democrats as other characters in the movie The Lion King. And there are many white and, non-white Democrats who were betrayed in unflattering ways. Hillary Clinton is a warthog. Joe Biden is also portrayed as some type of ape or monkey. But none of it is appropriate. And so it's just the idea of the president as commander-in-chief kind of adopting this role, not just of, being commander-in-chief and comforter-in-chief and rhetorician-in-chief, but also troll-in-chief, that is actually also really disturbing. And I think that it actually ends up undermining his effectiveness as president.
You mentioned how cumulative this could become. Could this clip and the messaging around it, both from Trump and the White House, have implications for the midterms?
This will be used to depict the Republican Party broadly as being problematic. I do applaud the Republicans who have spoken out against this particular trope. I think it is part of the reason why Trump and the White House took the message down. But the Republican Party was in the process of trying to woo voters of color over, to voting Republican in elections, and they made a successful case, if you will, in 2024 amongst Latino voters and some African American male voters in particular. Suffice to say that in conversations, not just in 2026, but in 2028, even though Donald Trump is not supposed to be on the ballot in 2028, these types of episodes will be used in conversations around the country in barbershops and at kitchen tables and at the proverbial Thanksgiving table to talk about what some of the problems were with this Trump administration.
Andra Gillespie from Emory University, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.